Welcome back to the Wayniac Nation Fantasy Football video podcast television show on the YouTube station. I'm your host, Wayne Cavati, and my starts have been on absolute fire the last few weeks. They've been about just as hot as Kelly Kapowski's return to the television. But enough about me. We'll gloat on myself a little bit later in the show. Let's reel it in and welcome back my partners in fun. Live from Tar Heel Nation. Sorry to bring it up. The one and only Mike Dutton. Dutton, how are you?
I'm great. I had an interesting afternoon watching football and college basketball, both at 4:00 on a Wednesday afternoon. Kind of odd.
Welcome to 2020.
2020.
Live from New York, our daily fantasy guru, as always, the one, the only, Fanduel Fee. Fiamano, welcome back.
Hey, I was watching football at 4:00 too, and it was fantastic on a Wednesday afternoon. Nothing better than doing work and watching football on my laptop.
Yeah, as long as you didn't take Chris Boswell in the over on 7.5 points, and he misses an extra point to lose. Anyway, speaking of teams and winning teams, let's just jump right into our locks of the week. As you know, we call them Big Larry's locks of the week now. We've been pretty steady throughout this season. The Raiders betrayed me last week, and actually Dutton's Bucks betrayed him with those garbage time points and came back and covered against the Chiefs. But we've been pretty steady through it all. We've been giving you a lot more than just one pick these last few weeks, and if you're following us, you're going to be pretty happy. Looking at Survivor this week, if you're still around in week 13, congratulations to you, because this has been a very weird season. So the good teams are running low. That's what that means. So I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna tell you to take the Bears over the Lions this week. I would never advise a team led by whichever quarterback is behind center for the Bears. But as I said, it's week 13. I haven't picked them, and the Lions, well, they're a mess right now. I think the 3 points is pretty safe there. There's a lot of big spreads this week. It made it tough. But that, if you want to get a teaser into the picture, you got Titans, Raiders, Packers, and Vikings are all favored by 6 or 7. But if you do a teaser and get those teams down to 1 or 2 points, all 4 of those teams, again, the Titans, the Raiders, the Packers, and the Vikings, they're looking good to me, if you ask me. So, Fee, I'm not taking your Giants this week. And if they had Daniel Jones, I probably would. But I'm not. So, who are you taking?
So, so for my Survivor pick, I'm taking the Seahawks, 100%. But the spread in that game is 10.5, I think. And while I have zero interest in Colt McCoy and what he might do with the Giants offense, which is probably next to nothing, I still wouldn't necessarily take the Seahawks with the points or giving the points either. I would just stay completely away from this game. But for my Survivor pick, absolutely, 100%, I'm on the Seahawks. For my spread picks, I am looking at right now the Washington football team plus 8.5. And who are they playing?
Steelers?
Yes, the Steelers. I just think the Steelers, having played today on a Wednesday, short week, who knows who they're going to have and who they're not going to have when they play. I just think 8.5 points is too much. And Washington's defense is still very good.
Yeah, they've been very good.
So I like the points there. I like Tennessee, like you had mentioned. I like them minus 5.5, minus 6, depending on where you're looking. And I also like New Orleans minus 3.5, playing Atlanta. I know Atlanta's been playing better as of late. I just don't think that they'll be able to stay with New Orleans, and they should be able to cover.
Yeah, you're still putting faith in Hill, huh?
I am. And you'll hear about it a little bit later.
I gave up on him before. Well, I never even had faith in him.
Not sure why. They're still winning.
I mean, let's be fair. They played a team that I think your brother was quarterbacking last week, right? Is that who they called him?
True. That's true. That's true.
Dutton, what are we looking at on your picks of the week?
Survivor, no offense to you, but I think the Colts are going to handle the Texans. I think
That's
the
fair.
Texans losing Will Fuller is a huge blow to them. Sad that, and they lost somebody else on defense, right? PEDs.
Yeah, Roby. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I think the Texans are a dumpster fire right now, and Colts need a win. In terms of
we could agree that this is all Bill O'Brien's fault still, right? Texans should clearly hire Bill O'Brien back and fire him again.
I told you that you are allowed to blame Bill O'Brien until we hear who the Texans pick is in the 2021 draft. And then we have a whole new regime. So you have until then, and then it's no more Bill O'Brien's fault.
If they have any draft picks in the 21 draft.
That is true. So if they don't get any picks, you get to keep blaming them, which would really be his fault because he probably traded them all away.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of spread, Raiders, I've seen it as low as 7, as high as 8. I think that's generous. I think they might trounce the Jets. They need this win. It's a big one for them. You'll hear me talk about Derek Carr very shortly. I'm also really, really intrigued by the Rams-Cardinals. 3-point Ram favorites, and the Rams offense looked horrendous last week. Their defense is great. Their defense will keep them in any...
sit golf last week. Someone may have said that. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think the Cardinals, I don't know if they win the game, but I see this like 1 point, I think maybe a push, 3-point end of game field goal. So if you really want to have your blood pressure going on Sunday, play that game and have some fun with it. So
I like that call, Dunton.
Yeah. Very good. Just a reminder before we keep going on that there's a brand new Wayniac Nation podcast Instagram page that took Dunton forever to join, but he is now following his own Instagram page.
It takes me a while to catch up on Instagram.
It's Wayniac_Nation_podcast_page. Go ahead, give us a follow. There's a bunch of fantasy fellows following us as well and other podcasts. So you'll get a nice little you'll get our picks, our updates throughout the week, because obviously, as you'll hear in a little bit, there were quite a few updates after we had our show this week. Before we move on to the weekly plays for the all-important Week 13 of fantasy football season, it is time for our daily fantasy portion of the show. And let's remind you to go ahead and sign up at our friends Ball Street Trading, and you can play fantasy sports just like you play the stock market. It's free, but the cash and prizes are very real. So head on over there, sign up, tell them we sent you, and have some fun. So without further ado, it's the one, the only Fanduel Fees DFS bankroll action stacks of the week. Fiamano, what's in your crystal ball for Week 12?
So I was right on it last week with Kansas City when I was talking about Mahomes, but I messed up and did not play Tyreek Hill. I went with Kelsey, and when I should have just double stacked that whole game, because I knew that all they were going to do was throw the ball, and I knew to sit Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I don't know why I didn't stack the entire thing up, but yeah, that's how it goes, right? So this week, I'm off of all the expensive quarterbacks. So you're going to be able to pay up for either running backs or receivers, or both. But my quarterbacks are kind of middle of the road. I'm looking at Ryan Tannehill playing against Cleveland. Tennessee's been, on their game. I know Derrick Henry's a big part of that. But I think Tannehill should be able to throw the ball, and he's down at 7,800. I really like Taysom Hill going against Atlanta. I know Atlanta's D has been better also. Listen, Taysom Hill, I know he only threw for 78 yards last week against the Broncos, but he still managed 17 fantasy points on 2 touchdowns rushing and 44 yards. And he had 24 points the week before that. And we all know that Atlanta's D can be thrown on. So I like Taysom Hill. He's at 7,700. I love Ryan Fitzmagic. going against Cincinnati. He's down at 7,400 as long as he plays. I'm not sure what the deal is with Tua, but I think Fitzmagic will probably play this week. And I really like Derek Carr going against the Jets, and he's down at
I hope so.
7,200. On to running backs. I'm back on Dalvin Cook. I know that he might have hurt his ankle a little bit, but they're playing Jacksonville and they're terrible. So as long as he's okay, yeah, I don't mind paying the 10,500 for him. Derrick Henry against Cleveland in that game. I mentioned Tannehill. He's at 10,000. I'm not sure I want to pay up that much for him. But he's in the block of players. I'm looking at Nick Chubb going against Tennessee in that same game, going back the other way. He's down at 8,700, so you'd be saving a little bit of money if you wanted to pay down a little bit for him. And then when you get a little bit cheaper, I'm looking at Miles Sanders going against Green Bay's horrible rush defense down at 7,200. I like Austin Eckler. I like what he did last week. He's playing New England, but I think that as long as they can get him the ball, he can do things with it. He's down at 7,000. And I like whatever Colts running back there is playing against Houston. And they're both 6,400, whether you go with Hines or Jonathan Taylor, as long as Jonathan Taylor is back from the COVID list. Down to receivers in that same Cleveland game, I like A.J. Brown. You want to stack him with Tannehill, that's fine. He's 8,200. I like Tyler Lockett going against the Giants at 7,900. Bradbury will probably be playing against DK Metcalf, so I think Lockett probably has a good day. I like Thielen playing Jacksonville. As long as he comes back from COVID, he's down at 7,800. I really like Michael Thomas this week going against Atlanta, who has a terrible pass defense. And I know it's Taysom Hill, but I think that they throw the ball a bit more. And he's down at 7,200. Again, he's super cheap, especially
For
for
Michael Thomas,
Michael
yeah.
Thomas. And I like Allen Robinson going against Detroit. He's down at 6,900. I know that he has terrible quarterbacks, but he seems to get the job done no matter who it is. So I like Allen Robinson down at 6,900. I got two tight ends. Oh, and Corey Davis, actually, in that Cleveland game. Really like Corey Davis. He's been doing a lot of good things. I think he's had over 60 yards in 6 of the last 7 games. If A.J. Brown has to contend with, what's his name? Their really good corner on Cleveland.
Ward.
I forget his. Yeah, Ward. If A.J. Brown has to contend with Ward, Corey Davis has been solid for, just consistent.
I like the thing I like about Davis too is he could put it up quickly. He's got 2 quarters with 1 catch for 5 yards, and then you look up and he's got 3 catches for 80 yards, and all of a sudden you're in business,
And he is only 6,100, so you're getting a $2,100 discount from A.J. Brown. For tight ends, I'm just looking at Gesicki playing Cincinnati at 5,700, and Trey Burton, who had a solid week last week, is playing Houston. And just like Dunton said, that dumpster fire down there, and he's down at 5,500.
All right, a lot of good plays there. A lot of money to be saved this week too if you put your picks right. That moves us on to the, as we said, ever important. All 3 of us are in the same league on this show, if you didn't know that already. 2 of us are already in the playoffs in our league, and 1 of us are not. And I'm sure there's a lot of you in the same boat. This is pretty much a playoff week, right? Everyone's playing for something, especially if you have seedings and buys. So let's just face reality. The playoffs have begun, and you wanna make sure you're starting the right people, and that's what we're here for. You particularly want to listen to me because I'm the smartest. Last week I did get Daniel Jones was looking sharp. He was my bad pick of the week because he got hurt. So if you look at the points he put up, it wasn't the best start, but the guy did get hurt. But I told you to start whichever Lions running back, and they both put up the double-digit points. McLaurin had a good day. Ingram had a great day for a tight end. He got 14.9 points, which is like 80 points from every other position, the way tight ends have been this year. We told you to start Hunter Henry. As you mentioned, Fee, you said to sit Hilaire. I said to sit James Conner. Of course, this was last Wednesday. Nobody knew that it would take an entire week for us to find out he wasn't going to play. Same with Julio Jones. You said to sit Julio Jones. He wound up not playing. It was a wild week. And that's why you got to follow our Instagram page and make sure you keep up with the updates, because this was the craziest week yet, and there was a lot of things we had to change after the show, since we record on Wednesdays, even though you're viewing this on Thursday. But we're going to make sure that we get it right for you this week, and we're going to jump right in, and we're going to do our starts at quarterback. And I'm going to tell you, and this is funny because it was several weeks ago, and he had a huge week, and I said it was the one and only time I would ever tell you to start Kirk Cousins. But I'm going to tell you a second and only time that you should start Kirk Cousins, because he's playing the Jaguars, and he's on fire. Even with Cook doing what Cook does. Yeah, and he's throwing the ball well. He's got, I think Jefferson is a little bit different than Diggs. Not taking anything away from Diggs, but he meshes better with Thielen in that offense, I think, than Diggs did, and it gives him a lot more options. Rudolph showed last week that he's still a reliable target. He's got some weapons, and I think this is a good week for Cousins. Fee, who do you got?
I am going with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mentioned him in the Fanduel segment. I like him against Cincinnati, as long as Tua is still out.
What if Tua plays? Would you like him?
Less. I would like him less.
That's fair.
I'm not big on Tua. I know he's played well, and he had decent points his first couple of weeks, but especially coming off a thumb injury, that could hinder him. I just haven't been big on Tua, even when he was okay.
Small sample size too, though, right? I mean, we didn't see him a lot when he's injured, and
I just think Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's just a gunslinger, man.
He is.
He'll put up the points for you. Tua, rookie. I don't know. I don't know that they have the weapons necessarily.
I don't disagree with anything that you're saying.
So I like Fitzpatrick. If Tua plays less,
fair enough.
Still like it.
Dutton, what do you got?
So I picked him last week, and he fumbled 3 times and was intercepted once, and I don't think I've seen a quarterback play worse until I watched the Broncos, what was supposed to be their quarterback play. But I'm going to go with Derek Carr this week again, going against the Jets, who give up almost 300 yards passing a game. The Raiders, they're in the playoffs, right? Like, they are fighting for a playoff spot, and they're the only team that has handled the Chiefs once and played the Chiefs twice and played them close both times. So there's something there. So I think if the Raiders have any hopes of the playoffs, obviously it rests on the arm of Derek Carr. This week is a huge week for them to play the Jets, make a statement. We're a team to be reckoned with. So I'm looking for Derek Carr this week. Have a big week.
I mean,
I like it.
I got to start Carr in my league because Brady's on a bye.
Right.
But I think what we're learning there, and I don't disagree with you. You got to start him.
Yeah.
But I think we're learning he needs a receiver, like a legit receiver, because you got Waller and he plays that role, but he's still a tight end, right? He's not running the wide receiver route, and he needs, like you said, the position.
It's interesting, right? Because they have Hunter Renfrow, and you go back and you look at Hunter Renfrow's stats throughout the year. He doesn't have great stats, but he seriously is the Wes Welker of the
But he's more of the Danny Amendola. Right?
You're
and
right.
That's not a knock on Danny Amendola, but Danny Amendola was a lesser Wes Welker, and that's what Renfrow is,
Right. But I don't think they use him enough. Like, I think if they used him in the short game, it would open up the deep balls, and they're not. I don't know. I'm not a coach, but that's just what I witnessed.
It's tough. It's tough. Let's roll on to running backs. Dutton, we'll stick with you. Who do you like?
I'm going with Aaron Jones against what the Eagles call a defense.
We'll see what the Packers call a run game, because it hasn't been pretty the last few weeks. So
the last 2 weeks, it's been good though. Last week both running backs at almost 100 yards. Both of them rushed for a touchdown. It's something there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers only threw for 200-something yards last week.
He's just throwing He's throwing 4 touchdowns a week. He's not even throwing for big yards, but still 4 touchdowns a week. Fee, what are you looking at?
I'm going to do something unprecedented here and give you 2 running backs.
Go for it.
I like Miles Sanders playing Green Bay. They just have such a terrible rushing defense that and the Eagles can't throw the ball, so I feel like they're going to have to get Sanders involved and get him involved often. But I also really like James White this week with all those running back injuries with New England. He had a solid week last week, and the Chargers tend to give up a lot of backfield catches.
Mhm.
And I think James White continues on with what he was just doing last week and puts up points for you this week again.
Mhm. I look, James White's a great fantasy running back. You know, any way you want to cut it, the guy's going to get you points. I'm going with David Montgomery. Last week was his best week of the year. I mean, and it wasn't even close, right? It was his first 100-yard rushing game of the year. He had a 40-yard catch for a touchdown. He's playing the Lions defense. They allowed, I think it was like a 28-yard touchdown pass to Duke Johnson. They're allowing backfield passes. And Montgomery showed if he's healthy, he can run the ball. So he looked good. And as we've said, I think the running backs we've picked over the last few weeks, one of them has been playing the Lions. So I think that you stay with it there.
And volume is king over there too.
Wow.
So
Yes.
and Montgomery's been getting 80% of the touches.
Yeah,
out of the
Tariq
backfield
Cohen
for them.
getting injured was his best friend fantasy-wise this year. Definitely helped him out. Moving on to receivers, I'm going to stack it up. Fee mentioned him in daily fantasy, but I'm going to tell you to start Thielen. If he's healthy. If he's not healthy, you got to roll with Jefferson. But that's Thielen's my pick. Fee?
I'm going with Allen Robinson. Same deal about Detroit, and I don't and he's their number one guy. He gets a lot of volume. He gets a lot of targets. I don't think it matters. It hasn't mattered all season who his quarterback has been. I actually think it's even better now with Trubisky rather than Foles. But I'm going with Allen Robinson playing Detroit.
Dunton.
I'm going to go this week with Stephon Diggs for the simple fact, I mean, he's a solid receiver. I think most teams are going to look at him and probably start him if he's on your team. But the Bills need to find Stephon Diggs. They have to start preparing for the playoffs. And when you look at the Bills early on this year, when they were getting the ball to Stephon Diggs, they were scoring points. And then they kind of went into, well, Josh Allen dropped off fantasy-wise because Stephon Diggs' targets dropped. So I think his targets increase. Going against a tough 49ers defense, which is coming back. I mean, most of their injuries are I mean, I feel like the 49ers were on like an 8-week bye this year. Like everyone was just taking byes. And, okay, now we're ready to play. But I think the Bills offense, it's a showcase game for them Monday night. Stephon Diggs, I think he's a key play for the Bills' success and possibly your playoff success as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who do you have at tight end to start?
Tight end this week, I have, hold on one second, I just lost it. Hunter Henry, I believe, from the Chargers.
You do. That's who it says.
Yes, Hunter Henry of the Chargers, and that's because they're playing the New England Patriots, so I think that defense is tough. So I think Herbert will be under a lot of pressure, and Hunter Henry could be his safety valve.
Fair. I'm going to tell you to start Tanyan on the Packers. You said it a few weeks ago, Dutton, that Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with the tight end, and that's something that we haven't seen in a very long time. And he's catching touchdowns, he's getting targets. So that's what I'm telling you.
He also gets deep looks, which is so weird for a tight end on the Packers.
Right? No, I agree. Fee.
I'm going with Mike Gesicki this week, and it's only if Fitzpatrick plays, not if Tua plays. But I'm going to go with Gesicki. I feel like we mention him all the time, whether it's a sit or a start. He's always involved. But I'm going to start him this week. When Fitzpatrick plays, he gets over 15% of the targets from him. And he averages a little over 3 receptions a game and over 50 yards and a half a touchdown a game. And usually somewhere between 7 and 10 points. And the way tight end has been this year, I feel like if you're gonna get 7 to 10 points from him, I think that's probably a good way to go when you're starting a tight end.
Definitely. Okay, so that's our starts. That means it's time to get to the people that you don't want in your lineup for this very important week. Dutton, we'll start with you.
So at quarterback, I'm sitting Kyler Murray. It comes off a tough game against the Patriots, and it doesn't get any easier against the LA Rams defense this week.
Fee.
I am going bold this week, and I'm going to tell you to sit Deshaun Watson. I know that he's been on fire. He puts up tons of points, especially after O'Brien was fired. But now he has no Will Fuller. And I don't know how that offense is going to roll, especially playing the Colts.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best
two
defenses in
factors.
the league. One of the best defenses.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty.
So I'm going bold, and I'm going to tell you to sit Deshaun this week.
Yeah, no, hard to argue with that. I'm going to pick Carson Wentz. You said earlier he can't throw the ball. I've been saying this for about 10 weeks, and I get a lot of pushback. I want to publicly apologize to John Kitna because a few weeks back I called Carson Wentz the next John Kitna, and I feel like that's an insult to John Kitna.
100%.
Wentz, he's not a good real life quarterback right now, and it's a lot. The offensive line is in shambles. I get it, but it could only be an excuse. I think you said it last week, Fee. It can only be an excuse for so long. Now he's going against the Packers, who you talked about. Their run defense can't stop anyone, but their pass defense can. They're pretty solid on the pass. And Wentz, prove me wrong. Make me eat my words. I'm perfectly fine if you put up 35 points this week and prove me wrong, but I just don't see that happening.
I think it's mental with him. I really do. I think it's in his head.
Something's wrong.
It's bad. He's bad.
It is bad. Moving on to running backs. I just like that Rams defense. They've been solid the last few weeks. I'm going to tell you to sit Drake. Fiumano.
Yeah, just sit all your Atlanta running backs.
Yeah, Hill proved last week if he gets the starter, he is not volume. It doesn't even matter. He's not.
And New Orleans rush defense is one of the best in the league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dutton, what are you looking at?
Josh Jacobs, he's questionable. Didn't play wasn't in practice today, and really Devontae Booker plays. He might be a top 20 running back this week against the Jets. So the Raiders may be cautious with him, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying any game is easy, but it's definitely an easier matchup for the Raiders than some of the other ones they've had. So Devontae Booker could be a start that you would think of sitting Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. Why don't we stick with you and talk about wide receiver, Dutton?
So Fiumano talked about him earlier with his daily fantasy with Tyler Lockett. Love him to death, but clearly DK Metcalf is the star of the Seattle Seahawks these days. And as a Tyler Lockett fantasy owner, it's so disheartening to watch him run these great routes and DK Metcalf catch these amazing passes downfield. So sit Tyler Lockett.
P.
I am sitting Brandon Cooks this week. Same deal with Deshaun Watson. I just kind of,
you could put the entire secondary on him, right? They have no one else. Just put 5 DBs on Cooks.
Pretty much. I mean, they really should double him the whole game. He should probably not do much. So.
Yeah. So coming into today, I made this list before today's football game, and I had Johnson on the Steelers. Redskins defense fantasy-wise against the receivers is the second best. They're allowing no points to receivers. Well, that's hyperbole. Of course, they're allowing, I think, about 15.9 points a game to receivers, barely any targets. They're just shut down. I don't know how many of you watched that game today, but he has slippery fingers. And I don't know that Big Ben's going to be able to trust him. There's plenty of weapons on that team. There's plenty of mouths to feed. Even with Ebron catching the ball, he only dropped 1 pass today, which is, like a Christmas miracle, a Thanksgiving miracle for Ebron. So I'm telling you to sit Johnson against the Redskins. Moving on the other side of the ball for tight ends, we're going to tell you to sit Logan Thomas against the Steelers because that defense is pretty solid. Moving on, Dutton, who do you like or not like?
Well, it's interesting because when I was originally doing this, I was sitting Hunter Henry at tight end, and then I moved Hunter Henry to the starting role at tight end. So this week, I'm going to tell you to sit Kyle Rudolph because he played his greatest game of the year last week.
It was his best game of the year.
So sit him this week.
Fair enough. Fee.
Just so you know, Deontay Johnson had 8 catches for 46 yards today.
Okay. How many drops did he have?
I have no idea. Several, but I'm just saying. I mean,
he had 6.
He's a target machine. But
he is a target machine.
I'm teasing on that, but I am saying the Redskins defense, like I said, before today's game, he was my pick. I just I think that he is the target machine. So that's the guy that this defense is going to target on, right? They're going to make Claypool and, whoever else is healthy, if he's healthy, whoever else is healthy, beat them.
Yeah.
So he was my pick before, but I think he had 3 or 4 drops today, and so that was just, I was teasing a little bit, but I still think
I just wanted to let you know what his
I know.
stats were today.
Yeah.
So tight end, I'm sitting Evan Ingram, and it's not because of him, it's because of their quarterback situation.
Sure.
They're probably going to have to throw the ball, and Seattle's defense has actually been playing better.
A lot better.
And I just don't know if the Giants' offense is going to be able to do anything. And even if they are, they're not going to be able to get the ball to Ingram. And if they do, it's going to be short, quick stuff. And at most he's going to have like 40 yards. So I think Ingram is going to be my sit. But the way tight end has been this year, he might have to play him regardless.
Yeah. No kidding. So that, as they say, dear viewers, is a wrap. We hope you've had a good season. We hope you are trusting in us. You may have heard we have an Instagram page. Go follow us at Wayniac _nation _podcast _page. And make sure you like. Any questions, leave right down there in the comments. Subscribe. And as always, we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week for the playoffs, and we're going to win you games. Playoffs. You guys have a great night. We'll see you soon.
Take care.